Okay, good morning everyone. Bore Dak and Hadlith. Good morning conference. It's really good, as Louise said, to be back in person, seeing so many in the room, and new faces as well. So welcome to everyone. Looking forward to a really good, productive, and inspiring day. The last time I did this in person conference speech was the Green Party conference speech in Newport in 2019. And my theme then, my opening lines was about how we were living in challenging times. I really didn't know what was coming, did I? It's been, the last 18 months, 2 years have been challenging and testing for everyone. And it's exposed the COVID pandemic, on top of the already existing crises that we're facing, exposed deep structural flaws within our society, exposed just how vulnerable the weakest are in our society, and how unjust and unstable it was. It was a crisis that impacted most on the poor and the vulnerable, a crisis that particularly impacted harshly on black and ethnic minority communities. As I said, it exposed glaring inequalities that we as the Greens have always been very vocal about, but it did bring it to light for very, very many people. It was also a crisis that showed things could be different. Especially at the beginning, there was a lot of talk, as we got used to lockdown and the very first intense lockdown. People were driving less, people were flying less, people were spending more time in their community, appreciating the value of local green spaces. And there was a sense that maybe we would learn something from this. We would come back different, or to use a phrase that's now being cheapened beyond worth, build back better. It showed communities coming together. We saw mutual aid schemes popping up. We saw communities looking out for each other, and an awareness that something was really wrong with our society. Unfortunately, as we hopefully come out of that crisis, as we edge out of it, business as usual seems to be reasserting itself. The politicians in power who paid such lip service, clapping for the NHS workers, are back to slashing NHS wages. We need to resist that. We need to take our green values, which came to the fore during that crisis, and make sure that they carry on to be expressed in our communities. And the crisis that I was referring to in 2019, the challenging times, the global climate crisis, the climate emergency, hasn't gone away in that time. If anything, it has got worse. We see increasing frequent extreme weather events across the globe, flooding, storms, droughts, more flooding here in Wales. We're now in a situation which we would never have imagined 10 years ago, where coastal communities in Wales are making real-time plans to evacuate. This crisis is real, it is here, and it is now. And it's something we have been shouting about for a long time, and something we have the answers for. And the strength, the intensity of that crisis has only made it even more frustrating, the shambles that was COP26 recently, the lack of leadership shown by global leaders, the resistance to actually grasping the metal, doing what needs to be done. In many ways, we've reached a good point in that no one was denying the problem anymore. Every global leader was paying lip service to it, despite their actions at home not living up to that. But despite the disappointment of the result, the agreement, the watered-down agreement, which goes nowhere near far enough to doing what we need to do so urgently in the next decade, there was hope to be taken from COP26. And that hope was from the voices outside the hall. The voices of the young and the indigenous peoples from across the world, the global south, making their case, refusing to be ignored, refusing to be sidelined. And that is, for me, where we take hope. Because those people, especially those inspiring young people, and we've seen them in Cardiff, the School Strikes for Climate, those people are going back to their communities, back to their families, back to their schools, their places of business, and taking that message of urgency and resistance. And that is something we need to build on. We need to get our message out there, our green solutions to these problems. So looking back at COP26 and the COVID crisis from a Welsh perspective, and one thing that struck me this morning thinking about it is relatively how well the Welsh Government have come out of this. The Welsh Government have got their comms team in place. Admittedly, it's not so hard for them to look competent when you compare them to the circus at Westminster. But they've done a very, very good job. They speak the words. They've done a good job of convincing the outside world, convincing the population of Wales that they're doing things better, that they tackle COVID better, that they have got real plans to tackle the climate emergency, that they are tackling inequality, they are fixing our society. Yet the reality doesn't live up to those ambitions. Too often, Welsh Government are brilliant with ambition and fail on implementation. We need to remind ourselves that Wales has the highest death rate per capita in the UK, COVID-related death rate in the UK. and shamefully, for many years now, the highest rate of poverty. 1 in 3 children in Wales currently live in poverty. And this is after 20 years of a Labour government. We must never forget that. And the Labour government will make some defensive noises about not having all the levers to do the things they want to do. And this is true. But over those 20 years, we have seen increased devolved powers. And there are levers, things that they can do that they aren't. And I think that is where it comes, so our Green voice is so important. Why we need elected Greens across Wales at every level of government, holding Welsh Labour, holding Welsh politicians to account, making those warm words turn into genuine action to tackle austerity, to tackle poverty, to tackle inequality, to tackle the climate crisis. All of these things that will not wait any longer. But on the subject of devolution and the devolved powers, it is fair to say that the Welsh Government is under attack. The Welsh devolution settlement is under attack from Westminster, hungry to claw back powers. We saw, in recent years, we've seen the Internal Markets Bill, a deliberate attempt to undermine Welsh Government and Welsh devolved powers. We need to resist that. We need to fight for increased powers for Wales. And that is why I was so pleased at our conference last year when we near unanimously adopted a policy of supporting independence in Wales. As a party that has the devolution of power to the lowest possible level as one of its core principles, independence for Wales is a must and is a key part of the answer to these problems that we're talking about. And it's been refreshing going out there doing public events, the limited events we could, mostly on Zoom. It's been refreshing and encouraging the response we have got to presenting our vision of an independent Wales. Because our vision of an independent Wales is a cosmopolitan Wales, an inclusive Wales, an outward-looking Wales, and an internationalist Wales that pulls its weight in the struggles that face us all. And one key time for raising all that was obviously the Senate election. We got to speak about all these issues during the Senate campaign. And I think that core message resonated really well, because one of the key things that I'm most proud of our Senate campaign was that we beat the populist Welsh Assembly Party hands down across Wales, despite the profound media imbalance, the media cheerleaders edging them on, saying they were going to be in the Senate. We beat them everywhere in Wales, and we should be proud of that. And on the Senate election, I think each and every one of us needs to be very, very proud of that campaign. Whatever part you played in it, we achieved our best ever Senate result, breaking records for our records across Wales. Yes, frustratingly, we didn't get that 1-2 Senate members. We came very, very close. Amelia was very, very close to being a Senate member. We came very close to South Wales Central, and got good results everywhere else. But what I took most from that campaign, because I've been doing this for 10 years now, I've been involved in several campaigns, it was the most unifying, most professional and most inspiring campaign I've been involved with as Wales Green, in any way as Wales Green Party. We ended that campaign with a sense of purpose, moving forward, positive, proud of what we'd achieved, and getting ready to break through next year, break through 2022, which Ian will be talking about later. This is our moment. We need to build on that momentum, and we need to get those councillors elected across Wales next year. And I am confident we will get councillors in at least half of the council local authorities in Wales. We are going to get 10 to 15 of us elected to local authorities, and that will make the difference, because Greens in the room do make a difference. We've seen in councils across England the difference that elected Greens make. We have seen the immense difference that elected Greens are making in Scotland. We now have 2 Green ministers in a UK government. And in the short space of a matter of months, they have changed the conversation. For Nicola Sturgeon to stand up and say, we need to question our continued extraction of North Sea oil, she would not have said that a year ago. That is the difference, the very real difference Greens make in the room. And we make differences in our communities as well. So we need to capitalise on that, take that step further and give Wales the representation it deserves. We see it in our communities, we see it across society. We have key Green involvement in the UBI Lab Cymru, which has done fantastic work in raising this core Green policy, getting up on the table there, pushing the Welsh Government in the right direction. And they're edging there. The trial that they're proposing is flawed, but it shows that Greens have led the conversation. Here in Cardiff, we've had several campaigns. We've had the unfortunate knockback of the judicial review for the Northern Meadows, but local Greens have been core to that campaign, fighting, especially, I have to mention Cat Lewis, who has fought a determined and passionate campaign, and will continue to. And these are just some examples of what difference we make. So I want us to take heart from that election result and the hope and optimism that we have next year. And also to let you know that the wider Green Party, in my role, I have to sit on different committees at a Green Party level. We have the full support and backing of the Green Party of England and Wales. They want us to succeed and they know we can succeed. We will succeed, we must succeed, because Wales deserves no less. Thank you.